Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and we are back again today, episode 128 of Podcast 2 for 1. And if you haven't already, and let's be honest, you probably haven't, you can always subscribe to the podcast, youtube.com/2for1 Studios, the best place to consume the content. There we have original content like 2 for 1 Collectors, 2 for 1 Backflash, and of course, movie news every Monday at 9 a.m. with 2 for 1 Joe Live.
There's been a lot to talk about on 2 for 1 Joe lately. Lots of
It's
new
hot and heavy
news.
over there.
Yeah,
It's hot
yeah,
and heavy over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've said a lot of Warner Brothers, a lot of the word Warner Brothers, a lot of the word Ezra Miller, David Zaslav. They've been kind of in the zeitgeist lately in the last 3 or 4 months. Batgirl, a lot of stuff like that. But
Yeah.
if you didn't know, and just like subscribing, I bet you didn't know this either. We are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course special guest appearances throughout the year. Kapow. Daniel, we are talking about Prey that just released on Hulu, owned by, of course, Disney. And this is it's one of those movies that whenever this was announced, I was kind of bummed out about initially because I kind of always want to push forward with a franchise.
Sure.
And I kind of, and I am maybe one of the few that actually liked the last Predator movie, The Predator by Shane Black. And I was just kind of curious to see where they were going to go with it and all that kind of stuff. And so this kind of felt like, okay, they're ditching those plans. Obviously, that didn't work for them like they wanted it to. And they're going to go back. And then I heard they're dumping it on Hulu. And I was like, dang, like this, I want to watch a Predator movie in the theaters.
Yep.
And, but as we started getting more promotional material, we found out the director of it. And, he's got same guy who did 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is a movie I really did enjoy and thought had some great performances in there. And, as we were getting closer and closer, we started getting more and more promo stuff. And like, man, this is actually starting to look pretty fucking dope. And lo and behold, it was pretty fucking dope. So I'm a huge Predator fan of I'm like a big fan of the franchise. It was my dad's favorite movie, quote unquote, his favorite. What's your connection to the franchise? And also, did you find the movie as dope as I did?
Yeah, I mean, I have very little connection to this franchise. I think I've seen Predator 1 on TV maybe 10, 15 years ago. More than that, probably by this point. So very little sentimental connection to the Predator or I don't really know anything about the lore of the world or whatever. So going into this, I think my expectations were pretty... not low, but not high. Just kind of not exactly knowing what to expect, just because I don't know exactly what a normal Predator movie is supposed to be like, or what they've been like up to this point. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really tight action flick that really knew what it wanted to be and owned that and did it really, really well. The story, the stakes are really, to me, enjoyably small. In a way that this isn't like we've got to stop the Predators from taking over the world. There's a Predator in somewhat attacking this tribe, and they want to kill it. And really, even beyond that, the stakes were for the main character. I should have pulled up the names here. Her finding validation in the tribe. And like validation as a hunter, as like a it was very much kind of like a boys club kind of tribe, which I'm sure is pretty, somewhat consistent with historical accuracy. And so like
definitely
in the end, she had really strong internal goals, and then the external goal was, even just like who would survive. First time I saw that dog, I thought it was dead. I was like, that dog is not making it to the end of this movie, and that'll be tragic because he seems like such a good boy. But yeah, man, I thought this film really was everything it needed to be, and I struggled to find too much wrong with it because I feel like it nailed exactly what it wanted to be.
No, I agree with that, and just to kind of throw it out there, it's Amber Midhunter or Mid Thunder. Sorry, she plays. What a cool last name, Mid Thunder. Amber Mid Thunder. She plays Naru, and she's a Comanche warrior. And I think we're in 1717, I believe. So it's about 300 years prior, or prior to Predator 1. So it's supposed to be the first time the predators, I believe they're called the Watu, the species, the first time they're actually on planet Earth, so to speak. And
Okay.
so it's like their first encounter, so to speak. So they're, anyway, yeah. So I think you're right. I think it nailed all the things it was kind of going for. And it's a special case where the internal goal, it's a perfect scenario, right? Where you have the predator supposed to be like one of the best hunters in the world, and it's this girl who wants to prove to be a hunter. So it's like a perfect idea in terms of, it's almost one of those things like in the writer's room, when someone finally says it, you're like, oh, why didn't we do that beforehand?
And it's perfect because just the fact that it's Native Americans versus a predator, because like I feel like Native Americans, for me at least, when I think of like who were the best hunters in like human history, I think of Native Americans, like their ability to track, and to be silent, to use like bows and arrows silent, they work in like so strategically, and like they're so in tune to nature and the sounds, and they can just, they can, disappear into the woods and no one can find, it's just, they, in many ways, they were like they were the apex predators of that time. Right.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And then you have the predator, who's this apex predator of space, I guess, in some way. And it just made, because it was like they were kind of tracking each other, right? And like it was really impressive to see these Native Americans like track him with more traditional means, while he's like got invisibility cloaks and scanners and a heads up display that has heat vision and stuff like that.
Now, in the extended canon, there is a lot of female protagonists. That's something that kind of pops up quite a bit, especially in the Alien versus Predator stuff. And there may even, I could be completely off base, but there may even be some Native American stories set in there somewhere. And actually, fun fact for you listeners, Marvel, since now Disney owns the Predator rights, Marvel is just, I think it's actually yesterday or 2 days ago, they released Predator #1 in Marvel Comics. So there's like, I think there's some cool what if stuff of like if they like met the Marvel universe, and all those kind of things are kind of happening. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of deep cut stuff.
That would make a great villain. They would make or like anti-hero, whatever.
100%, yeah. But I think there's a lot of cool things here, and one of them too is just on the fan aspect of being a fan of the Predator. One thing we kind of learn, a few things we know about the Predator throughout the series is they like the hot air, like they like the heat. So they typically show up during the summertime. They show up in the jungle, and they show up in the wilderness. Their planet is very heat, like they got like two suns almost, and it's very, very hot for them. And so another thing is they're very honorable. So like they won't attack you or kill you if you don't have a weapon, or if if they feel like that you're not a threat, so to speak. And typically
they're sportsmen, right?
They're sportsmen.
They want the sport. They want it to be a sport to them. They don't want. They want the challenge.
Yeah, and they're not. They don't like exclude women at all. But typically, it does feel like in the movies sometimes they don't really go after the females as easily, even if they do have weapons. That's been kind of a theme also. Like women and children, they kind of also don't do. That's not always the case, but it's kind of a thing they kind of lean on a little bit sometimes. So I think also going against a Native American tribe, you also have another group of people that have tradition and honor. Yeah. Versus like you do have a similar thing in say Predator 1, which you said you watch, where you have a group of mercenaries or a group of soldiers, right? And soldiers too have sometimes a code of conduct, and they have rules they set by. But it's a little different in the fact that they're it's ingrained in their body, but it's more so about it's more not about legacy versus like orders and following them, versus like where Naru, it's about family tradition and it's about proving yourself. These macho men in Predator 1, they're pretty fucking macho. You know what I'm saying? Like they can bench everything.
It's Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
They have guns, which kind of leads me to another thing, is that what's cool is the technology too, because one thing I was kind of thinking like, oh, are they going to have the big plasma cannon on the shoulder, which is kind of like
Yeah.
like what it says, a plasma cannon on the shoulder, and it can kind of track. And you're like, man, there's no way the Native Americans can stand a chance against that. But they were smart in saying, well, hey, this is 300 years before. Maybe they haven't gotten that kind of technology yet. And they kind of bring it back down to more of a simplistic kind of level. And there's still stuff in there, obviously.
Darts, basically.
Homing darts, like shields, stuff like that. It's still kind of, they had the upper advantage, definitely, with invisibility. But, of course,
does the laser pointer thing? That's like classic, right?
That's like what the plasma cannon typically is.
That's what I was wondering. Yes.
And that's when it first appears and you see it start to separate. I was like, oh, like it never does that. It's always like 3. So it's like just a reticule. And so with the 3, so to speak, it's basically, it's like 3 darts, kind of going at it, which it's a cool like callback, but it reinvents it, and it kind of keeps even people like me who are fans of the franchise like, oh, this is cool. They're not devolving really, but like showing us things we didn't really know. It really is. And I also love just watching. The visual effects are pretty great when he's invisible, and just watching him kind of check this. If this is the first time they're on this planet, he's watching how snakes and rabbits interact and how wolves and the rabbit works. He's watching all these other prey and predators and the bear and everything. It's a fun thing because he's learning too, and you kind of get the sense that, oh, this guy, he's not a villain. He's a hunter. He's a sport. He's not personal. It's just like when we go out hunt deer, we don't have a vendetta against the deer. It's like, this is game. This is honor,
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think, like I said, I think some of the CGI, like some of the animal CGI, was a little spotty for me. Sometimes, but I do think he looked great. I think he looked really fantastic. And I agree. I think it's nice that there is this like side of the Predator that you like you can okay, I can admire that. I like that they're honorable. I like that they don't, just kill for the sake of killing. It's all about, the sportsmanship. While they're still like, murderous villains, they're not just doing it without. They have a code, right? Every man's got to have a code, and they have a code. Right. That's interesting. Man, I forgot what I was going to ask.
No, it's okay. I was going to say this. A few other cool things is one, I love the relationship between Naru and I think is it her brother, the guy that basically is it Taibe, him. I like their relationship. He sees who she is or who she wants to be. He also is trying to achieve a similar goal here, but he is entertaining her more than anybody else is, and I like their camaraderie. I liked how they. He still, even like he admits, like, hey, at the very end, the jaguar, the tiger, whatever it was, that was really your idea and your kill, and I wouldn't have gotten it unless you had done what you'd done so far. And like little things like that, the character building of the world, and just kind of showing how they interact with the elders and how the elders treat the younglings, so to speak. All those kind of things feel very authentic to the time period. Granted, I have no idea. I wasn't there, nor am I an expert on this, but it felt like they had maybe done their research, or and I think also that everybody there, was actually like part of the Comanche tribe. Like they have lineage that extends back that far, and so I think that's really cool, and I like the authenticity, and it kind of makes that kind of world. When you have an alien come down from space and he has an invisibility cloak, grounding those other things makes something like that feel more believable.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is one thing I will point out, and I think, we mentioned this in text messages about this, is I do think, there was obviously there's a Comanche dub that you can watch this movie with, that it dubs over the English that they're speaking with Comanche, which is really cool. But also it makes you think that, man, you kind of wish the whole movie would have been in Comanche in terms of that realism that you're talking about. That's one thing that, at least when you first watch it, like in the beginning, I think you get used to it as the movie goes on. But in the beginning, when you're seeing these very realistic looking Native Americans, like you said, actual Native Americans, people that have Comanche lineage, but then they talk in this like just kind of like just normal American English. You know what I mean? That feel like there's not even like really a hint of any accent with any of them, right? They're just talking normal, it seems like, which I get, right? Like the reach of this movie would have been less if this was a subtitles movie or a a foreign language film. And so like at a marketing level, I can't argue with it really. Like, and especially even like, it was probably better for the Predator franchise that it was in English. This movie is drumming up a lot of just kind of even a little bit grassroots like appreciation. I feel like where people are like, oh, hey, like I wasn't expecting it to be good and it was good. You know what I mean? I think Hulu's already announced that this is their highest, like this is the most viewed premiere or of anything original from them that's ever happened. I think like that, or it's been watched more than anything else they have that's original.
Yeah, among their TV shows and movies, it's the biggest premiere they've ever had in terms of viewership, and it's got, I think I could be wrong, a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and again, it almost makes you wonder, like, man, what if they had released it in theaters instead of Hulu, and if they do a sequel? I mean, part of me says that it's such a success on Hulu, they'll say, we'll keep it on Hulu, they'll do a sequel. But also, will they also release it in theaters? My big concern is, give me that Blu-ray. That's what I want. Seriously.
Surely they will. I'm sure they will. Like that's just easy money in some degree.
Not everybody has Hulu, and like that would also be like, hey, you can see it here first when Prey 2 comes out.
Well,
but
and
here's
for your
Prey
Predator
1.
super fans that want to have everything on physical and every
100%.
version of everything. Do you think? So obviously, we're going to get more Predator movies. Do you think they're going to do a direct sequel? Do you think we're going to still have Naru and this tribe in Prey 2, or is this going to be like more anthology where we maybe we jump 100 years in the future and it's not the 1700s, it's the 1800s. It's like Wild West Predator or something. I don't know.
God damn, that'd be cool.
Would that be cool? That would be fucking awesome. Yeah.
It's kind of it's not similar to my movie idea, but it's it's cowboys and aliens, right? So it would be no, that'd be a sweet idea. I mean, I'm totally down of a Predator and a guy at high noon, baby. That'd be fucking sick. Oh my god, that'd be sick. Well, I'm thinking also. Think of this. Hey, I'll answer your question. I think I have a decent idea, but also think about like, what if a samurai versus a predator, like Seven Samurai, but it's the Predator.
Yes.
That sounds like a great idea. Yes. You could always just drop the Predator in different time periods, and expose more types of cultures, and then but B, make maybe interesting stories. Now it'll be a trick there of trying to. You don't want it to be the same movie every time, just with a different slap of paint, like an Assassin's Creed game or something. But I mean, literally, right? But you don't want, that'd be tricky. But I think jumping different time periods would keep it interesting. To answer your question, the director's been pretty open about them kind of laying seeds in the actual credits, the crawl of the credits, where it's like you see the paintings and you kind of see some of the history and lineage of what potentially happened down the line. One of those things is it looks like a lot of Predator ships are coming to this Comanche tribe. So is it going to be like a Predator? No, I don't think it's going to, if you base off the actual like Predator history, they're not like attackers. They're not going to like wipe out people. They're there to drop someone in to basically, to hunt and to kind of get it's almost like their ritual, their manhood, essentially. They go get a skull, they come back, they're like, hey, I'm part of the tribe now. That's kind of what we do. Big thing too is, a cool thing that when I literally watched kind of the end of all the movies because I just kind of wanted to refresh on some of the climaxes to these. I've seen them all literally a billion times. Like Alien and Predator are two of my all-time favorite franchises, period. And so I'm a aficionado, so to speak. The gun that he uses, or she gets from the Frenchman from 1717, that's the same gun in Predator 2 when Danny Glover is in the ship at the end. After he defeats the Predators throw him that gun as a trophy. Like, hey, here's like one of the elder Predators. Here's a trophy. You kill a Predator and get the fuck off our ship. So that gun, when I saw that gun, I went, oh my God, it's the same gun that Danny Glover gets in Predator 2. So you kind of wonder, where does that gun go over the next 300 years to get to Danny Glover's hands?
Predators got it back eventually, I guess.
They get it back somehow, 100%. And so that's a really cool Easter egg too. And also Predator 2 was also the place, the same scene when Danny Glover walks into the ship, he's kind of scanning the interior of the ship, and he sees a wall of skulls. You see a T-Rex skull, which kind of negates the idea that this is their first time on planet Earth from this movie. But there was a T-Rex skull, there was a human skull, and there was an alien xenomorph skull from the Alien franchise. And that was something that they did. They didn't have the rights to it. They just did it for fun. It's a second of a shot.
Oh, wow.
This is before the internet. This is before people knew about crossovers. And people lost their, like you couldn't text your friend. It was like, did you see that 1 second shot? I'm pretty sure it's an alien skull. People were like, you're fucking crazy. And it's like a cool thing that people lost their fucking minds over. And that's what spawned the AVP franchise, was that idea that the production design team did for fun in that back end of that movie.
It's a good idea.
Made some money, I'll say that. But I think it's in the crawl there. Maybe some of the direction they'll go. I would love to see them jump different time periods. I would like to see. I mean, like, also, I don't know. I mean, how much farther do you go with? I mean, obviously you could do anything, but with Naru,
everyone. I guess I'm almost expecting everyone to try to have their own MCU. So I'm thinking, like, I mean, this. In some ways, this isn't. I mean, even the name suggests it's slightly like a splinter, like a parallel franchise to like mainline Predator. Right?
Smart title.
These are the Prey movies, right? These aren't the Predator movies. Now the Predator's in them, but it's like a spin-off series and stuff. Yeah. So I wonder if we'll get Prey 2 and a new Predator that's more modern. More of a modern day Predator of something.
I mean, the last Predator really did change the mythology in a big bad way.
The one you kind of liked?
I was curious. I mean, I'm more for it than against it. Yeah. The only thing I still care about, even with Prey coming out, I just want Arnold back in some capacity. Because they've been trying to get him back for every movie, and he's been either busy or the role wasn't big enough for him. But like, he's always been open to the idea. But that's what I want him to see him come back. He did come back for some voiceover work for a Predator game a year or two ago. But I still just like, I want that, because that would be the ultimate get for me. But I also understand that, like, we're in a different time now. Even if they got him back, it will never be as good as the first Predator movie. So maybe it's good that we don't have that kind of, we revisit those kind of characters, because they don't really tarnish that legacy that he had. Anyway, I really like the movie. Just last question for you. Yeah. I do have one. Well, two questions, I guess. One is, did you have any issues with it? I'll say my only issue with it, really, real quick, and it's more of a fan thing. I initially had, like, I love the design of the Predator. Like, I love his skull mask. I like, typically sometimes they can kind of fuck it up in the movies where they make his head too big to his body, and the helmet looks really weird. But they got a good balance. They kind of made it a little longer on top, but it did kind of lose some of that. The first Predator design to me is like a perfect movie monster look, and they changed it a little bit. And part of that's like, well, they've already established that there is different tribes, there's different sectors of predators, right? Just like we have different races and humans, right? We all look a little different. We don't all look the same, so to speak. So that's okay, but it wasn't, if you're not as good as the original, then sometimes it's like, don't change it too much. But it was a little different, so that kind of stuck out to me a little bit. But again, it's a really minor thing. I still really like the movie. Anything that kind of stuck out to you that really didn't work for you?
Nothing major. Like, some of the CGI was a little spotty. Like, the rattlesnake was a little spotty when it was looking at it at one point. I think, but I think this movie just, for one, it was 90 minutes, right? It was not a second longer than it needed to be. Right. And right there alone, there's no fat on this movie, I feel like, right? There's no unnecessary scenes. There's no, boring exposition or anything like that, right? We jump right into it, and we're off within 20 minutes. The Predator's hunting them, or he's getting his first kills with the Indians. So it's hard for me to find anything wrong, like, from a filmmaking point of view. I feel like again, it was like this movie, the writing, it knew exactly what it wanted to be, and it nailed that. Now, this movie it's not going to be in my top movies of the year, probably. It's not going to be a movie. This isn't a movie made for me in terms of genre, in terms of all that kind of stuff. But as a casual viewer, as someone that's just, looking at it even more from like the filmmaking side than the fan side, it's hard to find a wrong foot here. It's kind of like a perfect little action flick that just feels like a good little summer action flick kind of thing, right? That just, yeah, I mean, it's not a movie that I'm just going to rush out to watch again anytime soon, but I would watch it again. It's like, it's rewatchable for me. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think it's pretty tight film.
Okay, then the other question is, what's your favorite thing? Like, what was the coolest thing or the thing that you enjoyed the most about it? I think, obviously, just seeing the Predator do his gadgets when he fights the Frenchman, just when he kind of just goes fucking like, fuck you guys, I'm going to just kill everything. Like, that moment when he is having his weapons and the shield and cutting people in half, like, that's, and shooting the net gun, which is also from Predator 2. Really cool stuff going on here. And I just seeing the technology is always fun for me, and I like the sci-fi aspect of that. So what was your favorite thing about the movie that stood out to you?
I mean, I think Naru's performance was really good. I thought she did really well in the role. And I think
it's her first movie also, Amber Mid-Thunder. So
okay, yeah, she did really, really well, I thought. And I think that I thought they did really well with kind of like the cause and effect action sequences that would occur, like when they are hunting and then she sees the bear and then she's going to try to shoot the bear, and then the dog, they note like the wind blows and the bear smells them and starts looking for them, and then they're running from the bear, and then the Predator finds the bear. I just thought they did really well with just kind of these like cause and effect chains that really felt like it kept the tension high, but it wasn't always the Predator that was the problem, right? There was other threats out there. And I thought that, for one, made it feel more realistic, right? Like, she doesn't just have to worry about the Predator. It's also like a fucking grizzly bear and these, I guess, French colonists, I guess. I'm not sure if they gave any indication of exactly who that was. And putting them in cages. And like, I just thought that the film, it didn't overuse the Predator. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that could have been easy to do for a film like this. And I felt like he was used sparingly enough, and that when he was there and when he was wrecking shop, it really made an impact. And I thought that was just really well done.
Yeah, there's some cool things in it too. Just like, again, fan stuff where there's the classic line, "If it bleeds, we can kill it." That's always a fun line that we hear throughout the franchise. There's even the Billy, who's a Native American in Predator 1. He like gets a knife and cuts himself from the top down to his down like top of his torso down to his waist. Really? And that you see like that same cut. Yeah. You see that too. There's the thing where she's in the quicksand mud pit thing, and of course mud's always a big kind of proponent in the franchise, where basically if they have mud on them,
right,
it cools their body down where the predators can't see it. They kind of did something different where it's the herb, right, that kind of cools her down. Yeah. So there's little like things in there that they kind of like they're touching on, but they're not drawing attention to too much. That kind of say, hey, we're in the same universe. We understand the franchise. We understand the things you liked about it, but also here's our take on those things. And I think they did a good job about that.
I think fan service is done best when someone that that doesn't know about it, that doesn't have the connection, can watch it and not feel left out, right? Cannot not feel like, okay, they just did something that I'm supposed to know about if I'd watched everything up to this point or something, right? Like, and so it definitely feels like they knew what they were doing in terms of that. That wasn't like what they were hanging their hat on. And the other thing I'll say is like I do feel like they were just like playing with our heartstrings with that dog, because it would just disappear. And like I remember when she fell into the mud, it disappeared like 2 seconds early. I'm like, and she like gets out and the dog's nowhere. I'm like, I guess the dog died in the mud. Like I get like, you know, and then he just shows up. And you're like, okay, I
think it's a female dog, and don't quote me. I think it's from here in Arkansas. I think it's a dog that from a shelter here in Arkansas that they got. I could be wrong on that, but
where did they film this? Do you know?
I don't know. No, I don't know. But I think it's from Fulton County here in Arkansas that I saw a post about it, I think today, and I was like, really? It's a girl dog, and she's not a trained dog. They just, for some reason, picked her, and they said also that she was, she had to learn some things because she's not a trained acting dog, but everyone seems like they fall in love with fall in love with her throughout the movie, and it's she's a really cute dog.
She is.
I mean, I'm excited for the sequel. Like I'm give me more of it. It seems like they're excited about, or the director is excited about making some more, and I'm sure that especially if Disney says, hey, we'll give you some more money and just kind of do what you want to do. You did good the first time. I think we might see more Predator sooner rather than later, and I think that's cool for the franchise because they've always, it seems like every movie they have, they nearly have never captured what made the first one cool, and it's hard too. It's a very specific genre type of movie. It's very machismo, very men crunching on cigars, and it's different.
It came out in a different era of cinema. We don't get the movies that Predator 1 was anymore.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Daniel, how can our listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/241mail. Let us know what you thought of Prey. We'd love to just hear your thoughts on the plot, on what you think they'll do with the sequel. Anything like that, bit.ly/241mail.
And of course, if you can't hit up our Bitly, you can always hit us at youtube.com/241studios. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Of course, we try to do these live as much as possible. So if you catch us on there, we'll try to answer your questions, your comments as we do the show live. And of course, if you do leave a comment, we'll hit you back up there later at some point down the road. Again, subscribing really helps us out a lot. People can find us easier. We can make more content for you, and we can continue to kind of give you our thoughts and opinions on all the favorite things that you enjoy like we do. I'm glad we got to talk about this one.
What's coming up next? Is it the Sandman? Is that what's on
Before
next?
For us? I think it's Sandman, and we have I Am Groot, I believe, and we have which I think dropped today. I'm not sure.
Yes,
but
maybe yesterday.
Maybe it did.
Very recently.
And She-Hulk's next week as well. So we're kind of starting to ramp up a little bit more in some TV stuff. But I've seen all of Sandman, and I'm very excited to talk about it. So I'm excited. I really hope you watch it all because I will. Spoilers.
It looks.
I
mean, just reviews wise. Even if I hadn't planned on watching it, I would now watch it just from kind of the zeitgeist about it, and it seems like people that were big fans of the comic think it's great, which I think is a good sign.
I've never, been interested in the comic. I even almost purposely stayed away from it just because it didn't seem like it was something that interested me. But now watching the show, I'm like, damn, it's hard to explain until you watch it, but it's so different, and it's I don't know how it works, but it does, and I really enjoy it.
I did see the thing that they I guess in post stretched out the picture vertically, so everyone's got these unnaturally distorted, everything's just slightly elongated, and just barely enough to notice, but not so much that it's very apparent. But yeah, they I guess they just
really
stretch the picture vertically, so it everyone's kind of long and gaunt, and it just accentuates the features I think of the characters. But yeah, and I saw a post about it, and then I've seen a few screenshots. I'm like, oh yeah, it definitely feels like that for me. It looks
I mean, I always kind of felt that Sandman himself, Morpheus, his body just it does feel very vertical and thin. I was kind of man, it's he looks so his hair, everything. I'm like, man, you look so unnatural, but I could never pin it out, man. Maybe that's what it was, but but it works.
And it's a brilliant little thing. It's a brilliant little way to make everything feel not it kind of gives this feeling of surrealness to everything. Yeah. Right. When it has that, it has just this Anyway, it's cool. I'm ready to jump in.Maybe even tonight. We'll see.
I know you're. We're still alive. We're just kind of shooting the shit. It's okay.
Oh yeah.
I will have finished Better Call Saul by Tuesday. I know you've got some work to do on that show, but I would love to maybe do a retrospective of the whole series and maybe even include just have a Breaking Bad conversation.
Did we review El Camino, or did we just? I don't know if we did that.
We never reviewed it, no. But I've been wanting to rewatch it, especially after this, and even rewatch Breaking Bad. So I'm very much. I don't know this, but based on everything we hear about Vince Gilligan and kind of his future plans, I think this is upcoming Monday. Here is the last Breaking Bad thing, at least for a long time. This feels like this will be the end of the franchise until 20 years from now, they're like, hey, let's bring back something, but
And to be fair, I mean, like, this is the most like extended TV universe we've had in a while. That's this good. That is this good at all? But like, just that, like, we got 5 seasons of the Walter White story. We got a movie about Jesse, and now we've had 6 seasons with Jimmy McGill with Saul. And
yeah,
that's
it's really like
I was
Gus's,
even thinking about it
Mike's,
watching
all their origin stories, like that leads into Breaking
Yes.
Bad. And right now, this last season, spoilers, it's like
Yeah.
they're never bringing attention to it, but I know for a fact right now, watching it, that Walter White is doing stuff. Like, I'm like, oh
yeah.
I know that building. Like, I saw that in like season 3 of Breaking Bad, and like stuff like
So
that's
the timelines
happening.
are already overlapping.
They've
basically.
already overlapped, but no one's met each other yet. For me, so I'm like, I can
Yeah.
already see like it's so interesting. It's also weird because I always kind of felt there was a gap between, where the show might end and where Breaking Bad might begin.
Yeah.
Like maybe a couple years,
Yeah.
but it's like literally running right up to.
Well,
like,
that makes sense
concurrent to it.
because I mean, the story. Every season starts with present day, like the
It
black
does,
and white
yeah.
stuff is post
Yeah.
Breaking Bad.
Right.
No, I was thinking about it last night too. That like Saul Goodman was such an unobvious choice to do a spinoff on. Like, he was a fantastic character in
Yeah.
Breaking Bad, but like if you watch that show and you like, who's going to be the obvious spinoff? It's Jesse, right? I mean, he lives. He is a fan favorite. He's one of the core characters of the show, and he has some sort of future. Like, I mean, and we get the movie, but like, if you thought of like who could get a TV show, I'd be like, oh yeah, I mean, what does Jesse do next? What does his life turn into? That would seem like the obvious choice. But to pick Saul Goodman, who's relative, I mean, he's one of the biggest supporting characters on the show, right? Once he's
eventually,
really
yeah.
in there, eventually. But I just think it just shows for me Vince Gilligan and his team's ability to pick out what's interesting that isn't exactly obvious, I guess, in some things. And I feel like they do that all the time in their shows with the camera angles or
Dude, just the last 2 days alone, I've been just like, my mouth has been agape of how interesting the camera angles are. Like, cause it's been like 2 years since season 5 or more, or 2.5 years. And I've been watching season 6 and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, it's like a different level of like TV and just movies in general.
Well, there's
like,
just,
it's
go ahead.
wild. It's wild. Sorry. I get too excited about this show.
I know.
I'm
what's
knee
really
deep in it
interesting
right
to
now.
me
So
is how much of this show is shot so plainly.
it's like
You shoot a scene with Mike, like outside or in a parking garage, and the sky's like blown the fuck out, and like
I know
it's not like perfectly like. It's not like they perfectly did like exposure and like put light on the actor to match the outside so they could like, see the details of the sky and the clouds and stuff. No, they don't give a fuck. Like if it's just a scene where like something's happening, like it's an important conversation or a character's moving or going somewhere, it's like it's shot just so not in just standard. Like it's just kind of your standard.
It's even less than standard. Sometimes there's moments like there's 2 people talking, and they're like, it feels like sometimes they walk in there and they just put the camera down, and if they're both if they're both almost in the frame, that works for them.
Yes, exactly.
But
But
then like you'll see something like in the corner of like a close up, and like there's something happening back there that's like, and you're like, it's just so fucking brilliant. I don't know how it works. I would never have the balls to do it. I don't know.
It's really, what's interesting is it's that they know, because when you think about these shows, you think, wow, great cinematography. Like, great. Like, I think Breaking Bad, I came away from thinking that the cinematography was amazing. It was more about like camera placement and camera angle than it was like perfect lighting or these like really like texturized, like you're like whatever. But what's interesting is that you have all these scenes just shot so plain, I would say, like, and you're into it because you're so invested into the characters, you don't care.
That's what it is. Yeah, the acting's phenomenal.
Peppered into the show these beautiful composed, like just like long shots or wide shots or just like stuff where you're just like, so much planning went into where the camera was and what the action was and all these different things, and you're like, it's really just amazing that they know when to use that they know they don't have to do that constantly. They don't have to.
Yeah.
The stories work. In fact, sometimes that might be counterproductive because sometimes those shots, at least for me, take me out of it just a little bit because I'm just admiring how wonderfully it's composed and just the planning and forethought that went into it. But then because of all these other scenes that are just plain and just shot so like, I mean, it could have been the Beast team, like the second unit or something, right?
Yeah.
Like it really could have, and then it's incredible. Like I feel like just Vince Gilligan knows how to make great TV in a really just like he knows what works and what can work even if it's not like every shot's an HBO shot kind of thing, right?
And again, I even just this last episode alone, there was one shot where it's like you're in a garage and then the car pulls in and then the camera starts going down and you realize the camera's on the on the actual like garage door. And it's like it's coming down, revealing like this person getting out of the car, and like it's the camera's shaking. It's got because it's on a fucking garage door, but it don't matter. Yeah. Another shot where Jimmy is driving a car. He gets in the car, he drives off for like 2 feet, and the camera's like on the inside of the door, facing him like a profile shot. He opens the door. Of course, the camera moves with it because it's on there, and you see him get out, do something in the background. Run back in, and then and he's in the background, and it shuts back on him, and then you see him drive again. It's like little things like that. You're like, God damn, it's wild.
Right.
Anyway, sorry everybody, didn't mean for this to be a Better Call Saul pump up episode, but if you haven't watched that,
if you make a show as
it.
good as Better Call Saul, it's just gonna happen.
It's gonna seep into other pods. Yeah. It's part of it. Yeah, best show of all time. I mean, I may like it better than Breaking Bad. I don't know yet. I mean.
I don't
Depends on how they stick the landing. It's so good. I think I also root for Jimmy a little bit more than Walter because Jimmy
he's a much more likable character.
He is,
much
and
more.
And I wanted Walter to get away with it just because I always align with the protagonist when I watch something. but also feel like Jimmy, he come from a place that was bad, tried to do good, and just the world kept beating him down. Versus Walter who he realized his true self like. In a bad way.
Yes. Well, I mean, the first few seasons of the show are Jimmy really trying to do it the right way.
Really,
like he has some slips up. He becomes Slipping Jimmy a little bit here and there, but he's really trying to do the right thing and doing it the right way. Like,
right.
And you kind of this show is showing how life can beat the right way out of you, kind of thing.
That's for sure.
And I think that's. It definitely makes him more likable because with Walt we just see the downfall. Like episode 1 is the beginning of Walt's downfall.
Yeah.
So we never really see him trying to do the right thing ever. And so I think
when he does, it's just an excuse to he's lying to himself.
Oh,
it's an act, so
yes.
Also, again, Breaking Bad, if someone put a gun to my head said best show of all time, I'd say get the gun off my head. You're right. Like I get it.
I will say rewatching Better Call Saul, it is a slower show. Like it doesn't have nearly the amount of action. And I would even say like suspense that Breaking Bad had. Just episode to episode TV.
Sure.
But I think also that it builds to more like the first 2 seasons definitely feel a little bit more like the season finale of season 1 isn't just some like big shebang. Like the season finale of every Breaking Bad was just like jaws on the floor. You know what I mean? Like you just were like, what the fuck just happened?
I also gravitate more towards, I love lawyer stuff. I love like court cases. And I think, and him navigating that. And again, you're fixing to really, season 3 is really when it kind of starts like, you're like, God, like, I mean, I thought every episode's great, but I think the farther you go, just the more and more it's just like Breaking Bad, you get so deep into it, and season 3 and 4 is just so different than season 1, just in where the characters come. I mean, Walter White's shaved his head. Maybe it's like season 2, but he's Heisenberg in like season 3, or whatever.
Exactly.
Full on Heisenberg or whatever. Anyway, it's fun. It's fun seeing all these origins of people. We've already said our goodbyes. We've already told you where to go for the Bitly and for the YouTube. Everyone, thank you again so much. We'll catch you here relatively soon. My name is Donovan Thompson.
I am Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.